Greetings. Welcome once again to the final panel discussion of GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit 2026 Day 2. Panelists, we welcome you. We're happy to see you. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. And shout out to the speakers and moderators that has joined us since day one. And of course, to Christopher and Iris for that brilliant fireside chat. And with me here are speakers from around the world to discuss the topic who we become in an AI XR world. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Audience, please key in with me as we start with introductions. I will start with you, Lissy, and Casey, Alice, Nick, Matthew, Narendra, Alan, Mr. Dishon, and Dr. Lola. It's a full house. I'm really excited for the conversation. So please, Lissy, tell us who you are, where you're joining us from, and what inspired you to gather with us.
Hi, I'm Lisi. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, I used to do a lot of PR for XR. I was PR Sharks, and I did that for 7 years. And now I'm shifting to do verticals here on Isla Holbox. And we're working on short movies about the traditions of the islands and the magic of the Maya and the pirates that used to inhabit Isla Holbox. And I'm here to share the journey and to talk about how we use AI in our shorts and all of the past of XR and how that's blending into what we do with AI and making art and still keeping it human while we use machines.
We welcome you, Lissy. Good for you to join us. We're looking forward to hearing more about what you're doing and the conversation as we go on. Casey, let's hear from you.
Hey, I'm Casey Jensen. I lead growth and partnerships focused mostly on AI, digital innovation, and immersive tech. Most of my work is helping organizations grow through emerging tech, but in a way that keeps human connection front and center. So always excited to be back here in the GatherVerse with you.
Welcome you, Casey. I love the fact that Lissy and Casey just mentioned the word human connection, and that's the center of our conversation. Alison, it's good to see you again. Welcome. Tell us who you are.
Hi, is my mic working all right?
Yes, great.
Okay, great. I'm Alison Morano. It's great to be back with you, Salvation. I love GatherVerse. I am the founder of the Metaverse Chamber of Commerce, where we encourage mostly small and medium-sized businesses to think about the next step for 3D immersion for their businesses, taking the next step from 2D web to 3D web and immersive experiences. In conjunction with that, I was also recently named Executive Director of the Academy for Immersive Arts and Sciences. So we do a lot of encouragement also to bring in creators and directors, filmmakers, experience makers together to take the next steps as well. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alison. Congratulations on your new position. It's good to have you here. Nick, please tell us who you are and where you're joining us from. Yes, go on.
Hi, I'm Nick van Breda. I'm from the Netherlands, and I having a double role. I work for a university in applied sciences in the built environment faculty, where I train teachers in the usage of XR in the classroom. And we have seen ramping it up since AI has been implemented in XR. So there's a lot of uptake from different departments, from retail entrepreneurship towards social studies, social work, healthcare studies and such. And next to that, I'm a regional ambassador for a national growth fund called NPulse, in which I am happily coaching and guiding vocational schools and bachelor universities and academic universities in starting with XR. And what we see now is that there's a lot of possibilities due to AI implementations in using it in different levels. So not just in vocational studies or in bachelor studies, but in a leveling up towards like an ongoing learning path. So I'm really excited to be here and see if I can add value with information about that in the Netherlands.
We welcome you, Nick, and great work on the educational part. You're very much welcome. Matthew, please tell us who you are. You're muted, Matthew. Kindly unmute and continue. Please unmute below your screen. Yeah, you got it.
Can you hear me okay now? Sorry about that.
Yes.
So
All right.
I'm Matt Connors. I'm joining from Gothenburg, Sweden. I work for Volvo Group. They have an internal university. So we basically educate people in various different ways across the more than 100,000 employees that we have worldwide. And I've been working with XR since I got involved on the 2D and 3D design side, working with mobile applications back in about 2009. And I've managed to stay working with XR in different capacities over the years, and more focusing on learning initiatives and training. So at Volvo Group, we have various different trainings of many different types. Sometimes they're sales training, sometimes they're technical trainings, but we do quite a bit in that area. And I've participated in GatherVerse sessions before and just felt like it's my turn to give back a little bit. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew, and for considering giving back. Very important. We welcome you from Sweden. Thank you. Narendra, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I am Narendra. I'm working for Prudential Financial Services as an enterprise architect. So I'll be helping financial services in designing the systems to enable the AI solutions and for digital products. Yeah, thanks for having me in this discussion.
You're very much welcome, Narendra. It's good to have you. Alan, it's good to see you again. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm Alan. I'm the founder of Studio Bahia. I founded Studio Bahia in response to children as young as 9 years old committing suicide, self-harm, and refugee camps. My background was working at the World Bank out of college, so doing large-scale projects to reduce poverty, pain and suffering in regions around conflict zones and so forth. And so in response to that, we kind of studied the context, and we decided to go with the Google Cardboard approach to provide embodied therapies, and instead of kind of a language-based approach. And so I gathered, I think, the best team in healthcare and VR in the world, and then we also manufacture our product as a product designer. So this is our product.
Great.
The team. So it's inside. And we sell these to hospitals, and for $45. And for each one, we donate one to low-income regions, hospitals with in the developing world, and also veterans coming out of jail here in the United States, people in any number of acute situations like that. But we're mostly successful in hospitals. This is the inside of what's inside the box, a lunch case. It said, so it's designed with refugees, so all little things that they need, like a lunch case for keeping food safe and so forth. And so we're successful. We sell to hospitals. It's used for pain management, distraction therapy. We can reduce the use of opioids up to 80% in many departments. So in the United States, you have a huge opioid addiction. Like if you go to any American city, it's like this little zombie population running around. It's quite an acute crisis we have. And so we're able to do that at least. And we're distributing headsets. We're trying to get 1,000 into Gaza. And we're also producing EMDR, which is a gold standard therapy. And so it's able to allow people to process trauma, people with depression, anxiety, complex PTSD, using a small language model. So we're training a small language model to be able to do that and to be standalone without use of Wi-Fi. And so that's how we're applying AI. It's great to see you all. It's great to be with you. It's an honor to be with so many talented people. So thank you.
Thank you, Alan. It's such an important work you're doing. We welcome you. Mr. Dishan, please, let's hear from you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Dishon JM Wachia from Kenya, founder CXO of Apishi Technologies, where I use data and science to create immersive experiences. Right now, we're focusing in the hospitality industry, in the tourism industry here in Kenya, creating specific scenarios for guests to to have a more immersive experience as they come into our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dishan. You're very much welcome. Dr. Lola, please tell us who you are.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Lola Longe. I am from Houston, Texas, in the United States, and I work for a university as an AI professor. So I'm a researcher, a strategist focused on human centered and responsible AI. I'm the creator of Safer AI Protocol, and my work helps people and organizations to adopt AI in more ethical, trustworthy, and meaningful ways. I'm happy to be here this morning, and I look forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Lola. It's good to have you. We welcome you. We do not have much time, but we have a lot to unpack, and we'll just go straight into the conversation to talk about who we become in an AI and XR world. I will start with you, Lissy. Just briefly tell us. I'd like it for you to share with us what do you think and what do you, in your experience, how would you say we are? Sorry, let me get to the first question so you can see. Just a second, get into my controls. Tell us how
What's
a
happening?
human experiences. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Tell me, tell me.
I see it's breezy from your end. Can you hear me clearly now?
Say that again.
Is it breezy from your end? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. How are human experiences already changing as AI and XRO become part of our daily life?
How is it changing us? I mean, like it's changed us. Like we're at such a crossroads where we I mean, this is very similar to what happened 100 plus years ago when we had the telephone, when we had electricity, when we had all these major advancements that again everyone started contemplating what is this going to do to our humanity. We're here again. We have already the experience of what technology did to us in the past century for us to now gather how we are going to use our changing technology to become a next level human, if you want to call it that. But it's really up to us to decipher what kind of technology is really going to help us and which technology is really going to hinder us. There's already all sorts of social media restraints in different countries because children are suffering from comparisons and psychological issues from social media. AI, I don't have to say, is really contributing to misinformation, brainwashing, propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. Artistically, AI is lovely if you want to have shortcuts, if you want to be able to make something that looks glossy, if you don't have a budget. So, just like everything in life, with one hand you give and with one hand you take. So, we're changing constantly in this world that creates this synthetic reality. So we have to educate and we have to really, really pay attention to stay close to our humanity so this technology can assist us and not destroy us.
Yes, Lissy, that's like a lot from what you just said. We have a full house, and I like for everyone to chime into this conversation as we go around the questions. I'll bring in Casey to share more on this. Because Casey, do you think our experience is becoming better as we use AI and XR?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely coming better. I know for me, it's changed the game for my productivity and everything I do on a daily basis. So I know it's helped for me, and I think it's helping a lot of industries I talk to as they figure it out to really help them do things that they've never been able to do as quick as they can do them and do things a lot more efficiently. So I think that's one thing too. But I think we have to always balance that with doing things at the highest quality too, right? So things aren't perfect right now, and I think as we use these tools, we have to always balance efficiency and quality, which we've done forever. But I think even now, it's really easy to get sort of stuck in that mode and get blinders on and just go. And I think, you have to keep somebody watching this stuff and monitoring it and really knowing when to pull back, when to push forward, and really try to make the experience the best for whatever audience you're working with or customers you're working with, because it can get out of hand pretty quickly.
Yes, I agree with doing things with the right quality. I agree with that, Casey. Let's move forward with Alison. Alison, we're bringing you here. What parts of being human are strengthened by these technologies? Looking at what Lisa just shared, Casey just shared, what parts of this technology are really strengthening us?
So I think that there's a number of ways that it's strengthening, from just projects that people I interact with are working on. There's so many abilities, as Alan said, there's so many abilities to be able to reach out to people and help them. There are apps being built and immersive experiences being built that help people with their interaction, with their fears, with learning more about subjects. And in an XR environment, you're able to interact with other people and find find like-minded. I don't want to say like-minded, but people who share the same experience as you. And you can share a lot more with a full global reach of meeting people who may have the same issues or the same hangups, whatever it is. I meet introverts all the time, of which I sometimes am one, and we go and meet together and everybody just interacts, and it makes them much happier. I think with AI, we are able to get tasks done faster, which also makes us feel better, that you can complete your work, that you can do several things at once. You get your time back. There is a complete other side I can go through, but I really want to talk about how we're strengthened, because that's the question.
Yeah.
And
Thank
there's
you.
so many
Yes,
ways that we're better.
Of course. Nick, please, briefly, do you have any contributions to the question?
I think that, by the way, AI is helping us to get to a level of basic knowledge in design, in language, in speaking skills, and in a lot of different ways, giving you a basic level that you can switch from one job to another, maybe in a term of a month, instead of having to do a 4 years curricula. So I see that this is changing education a lot when we are having conversations with AI models while in the car to our work, brainstorming about the lessons that we are going to give, asking for some tips and advice on the work form that you have at hand, and you get some extra learning activities for your classroom to be better, towards navigating you home without having any traffic jams. I use it from day to day, and it gives me some kind of extra superpower on my shoulder, which is guiding me to be very productive, and on the other hand, give students also more often a stage, so to express themselves. And those who don't have any design skills can now express themselves with a beautiful PowerPoint design that they haven't made themselves, but with the use of AI, they could have created a compelling story and could have shared their authentic story out of a sudden. So I see that we are using a lot of communication and AI teaching tools now to give people more of a voice instead of less. And they get superpowered by AI, and that's I think a good advancement. I just hope that there won't be any autonomous drones killing us in the future, because
Yes, Nick. Exactly. Exactly, Nick.
For negative things.
Yes, totally. It's good to hear Alison and Nick shared on the strengths of how these tools are helping us multitask, be able to do more than we used to do. Dr. Lola, I'm coming to you. Dishon and Alan, Narendra and Matthew, I'm coming to you. But Dr. Lola, take us here. What parts of being human are at risk of being diminished? I know we've talked about those great things and all that, but tell us, what part of us are now at risk?
Okay, so what I'll say is the part of us that are being diminished will be independent thinking, patience, authentic connection with people. So, because we actually have all these technologies, we shouldn't be totally dependent on them. They can assist us, but not to take over our lives. Because reality is, it is the struggles we have in life that make us grow. If everything is so convenient, you actually are living in a fantasy island, so to speak, because you'll not be able to reason very well. And then the reality of having to actually have real connection with humans is going to be totally absent in your life, which is not good. You're not
Yeah.
going to be recording any growth from that standpoint. And I know right now we have so many technologies everywhere. We're talking about the mixed reality headset. You actually can stay in the comfort of your home and see yourself maybe in Hawaii, moving around the island. Yes, it's good to a certain extent, but the truth is you are actually not in Hawaii. So the actual connection you are supposed to have with humans, with nature, is going to be missing. So
Mm-hmm.
having to totally dependent on technology, it's is one of the risk. And then patience is going to be eroded because you want your software, your machine to quickly give you something without you even thinking. So to actually be patient and think and be in touch with the real world is going to be absent. And I always tell people the technology is there to support, but not to take over your life. Even my students, I shared with them whatever you are getting out of your technology, still take a breather, look at it, ensure that this thing is actually right. You just don't run without being patient and quickly, use all of the outputs. So human intervention is very necessary. And also we have to always have the emotion resilience.
Dr.
Uh,
Lola, Dr. Lola, you have said a lot of important things that Lizzie is here agreeing to it. I'm seeing
No,
Alan.
hold on, wait. The perfect example of all that is, do you remember phone numbers?
Yes,
Nobody remembers phone numbers anymore because all you do
yes,
is go to the contact and press the button. We used to
exactly.
remember phone numbers. We don't remember
Mm.
phone numbers anymore.
Right,
That's
right,
crazy.
right. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Dr. Lola. A lot has been said with that. Let's move on to Dishun and then Alan. Dishun, take us here. How do we maintain independent thought in systems trained to think, respond, and decide? How can I be unique when I go in and I give a prompt and then every response from this prompt is changing my initial idea? How can I be unique? Dishun,
I
tell
guess
us.
the first thing is for the system itself to be catered to such situations. So creating systems that have guidelines and especially focusing on ethics. As part of ethics is very, very important in this world right now. So that when you interact with such systems, the thinking does not become away from it does not become it is your own thinking. It does not become another machine's thinking. Yes. I also like to iterate what Dr. Lola has said about the previous question before about the critical thinking thing and the deep social connection. I myself have friends who prefer to talk to AIs, to prefer talking to computers instead of people right now. They
That's
prefer
strange.
to, yeah, I have friends who rather talk to an AI, open 3 apps, talk to them, get advice rather than asking from their peers. So it's something that is
Hmm.
really, really, yeah, it's really, really gaining traction, especially in a certain age, especially Gen Z and below. Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Dishon, I totally agree with you. I have a follow-up question, but I'll take it to Alan, who has been working with a lot of response persons in the medical field. And when you mentioned your friends preferring to speak to three different AI tools instead of meeting a friend, a family member, or an expert, like a therapist or something, if they have need. Alan, tell us, what do you think that how do you think that we're currently responding?
Thank you for a great question. I think we have to kind of accept that we don't have much control, or governments have much control, especially with small language models where you can download them into your computer. And
mhm,
so we have to kind of give guidance in the personal level. Like when you use AI, you might want to keep a duality within you. a sense that here in this side we're benefiting, but on this side we're kind of losing cognitive skills. We're losing some of our agency, our independence. And so just be conscious of it, because it's going to be like social media. It's not going to be controlled. And especially because you can have it in your phone, small language models, you can have it in your computer, you can have an enterprise system inside your business in the basement and be completely free of the cloud in many ways. And so it's more on a personal level. People should structure their engagement in a way that they're conscious that on this side I'm benefiting. So light and shade. The light side is this is reducing my workload, but on the other side, say if you're a lawyer, am I still able to write like this? If I'm a programmer, can I still code? And so be conscious of what you're losing in that sense. And a little advice would be to have kind of a larger picture, macro level strategy, because as I reduce my operations and administrative tasks, I'm able to spend more time with my team, be more creative. My team thinks I'm more funnier. Instead of like, I'm working on so many projects, right? The burden of administration has been lifted. So there's benefits there, but be conscious of what's being lost and what's being gained, and have that duality within you.
Yeah.
And just be conscious of it would be a start. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alan. Thank you. Have the consciousness in you. Let's bring it to Narendra and Matthew. We have not forgotten you, of course. I'm coming to you. And Narendra, what does intentional and purposeful living look like in an immersive, intelligent world?
Yeah, I mean, I think it means like choosing the presence over the virtual world, right? It means like being clear about what deserves our attention, and what aligns with our values, and what kind of life we actually wanted to build in this immersive world. Like intentional living, like it's not like just avoiding technology. It's about like consciously we are using the technology, right? So the question is becomes like am I using these systems properly, these technologies? So that's the main thing when it comes to the immersive living.
All right, thank you, Narendra. Narendra, I have a follow-up question. Looking at it from this lens, I will take it to Matthew. Looking at it from this lens, we're talking about being intentional and we're talking about being purposeful. Matthew, what do you think? How can we be both intentional and purposeful in an intelligent world? Is it possible?
Sure, I think it's possible. I think, when I think about purposeful, I think about like, some of the things that we're doing in my company in trying to be sustainable, right? And how do we do that in immersive spaces? And so a lot of what we do, especially in terms of the VR initiatives that we have that we're running worldwide, we kind of call it informally overcome distance. And the idea is that, we knew that it was very difficult to get people and equipment to certain places. And it really started during COVID, that there were these real challenges and people were working from home. They had this commitment level to their families, and really they needed to participate in a different way. And that's really how we started building VR experiences that you could participate in from anywhere in the world. And I think it changed the understanding of the way we participate with one another. And what we found is that a lot of times people were engaging on an immediate social level in these VR experiences in a way that sometimes they weren't doing in person. And so it gave them a lot of leverage that way. And it meant that it changed our understanding of like how people needed to maybe travel or book ahead of time. And the benefit there was also that we realized we were reducing the carbon footprint that we had in all the travel that we had been doing. And it now made us question like how we use immersive technologies. So that strikes me as being more purposeful in the way we go about, the way we build applications.
Yes, I agree with you, Matthew. I agree with you on that. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. And let's come back to Lizzie. Lizzie, we're back to you. How does humanity hold on to a stable sense of self in a constantly shifting intelligent world? I know you've mentioned what you're doing. You mentioned,
That's a loaded question. That's a
yeah,
loaded question.
but looking forward to your answer. Tell us.
I mean, like, how does humanity hold on to itself? Like, I mean, we have to observe that to get the answer to the question. How do we center ourselves? How we it goes back to thinking, like Dr. Lola was saying. You know, we hold on to ourselves by developing the discipline to continue to think, because it's so easy to not think. It's so
Mm,
easy to just hit a prompt and let the machine do everything for you. So for us to hold on to the stability of being human and our own humanity, somewhere along the line we have to develop some discipline for thought, and that is probably going to determine what happens to us and how we hold on to ourselves in this crazy, like, artificial world that grows every single day. I mean, look what's happening in the US and how the president of the United States uses AI to do whatever it is that he does. It's just, and people believe it because they don't take a moment to do research. And we go back to what Dr. Lola says. If you don't think, we're gonna get lost, and that's already happening.
yes, Lucy. Looking for what Narendra and Mati just shared on the sense of having being intentional and using these AI tools purposefully. I think there's a thin line there when people start thinking, I'm going to use this to for an intention A, B, C, and then the lines start blurring when we start using it for its disadvantages. I would love to come to you, Alan, but let me get to Kirsty first. And Kirsty, tell us, what do you think on this topic? Would you like to chime in on this?
Yeah, did you say me? Case?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I think you need anchors outside of technology. I mean, I tried it. I'm bad at this, by the way. I get sucked in, but relationships, faith, real world experiences, that's what I sort of lean on. Things that don't shift based on an algorithm. Because if
No.
everything around you is dynamic and personalized, you better have something in your life that isn't. That's sort of my philosophy with this. So that's sort of how I focus and try to stay stable in that area.
Casey, I had to write that down. It's like you just brought us back to the beginning. I think there's some stable things that are foundational to everything we build on. I also have the same belief with you, Casey. Thank you for sharing that. Alison, please, what's your contribution? I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
So I think that it's that everybody's been saying we have to be cognizant, right? We have to really be aware of what we're doing. I've been thinking about my relationships in and out of, let's say, the headset and using AI. I have to say that with AI, I don't completely, because I don't use enterprise solutions and I use business solutions, and I use the personal versions or the pro versions, but personal. I don't have a full trust that it is accomplishing what I need. So I always have that keeping me, I'm going to double check this, or let me look at something else. But there are simple tasks that I do take its word, or that I just take a shortcut. I do that. We have to be aware. There's people that I interact with in XR all the time who I also talk with offline, I would say. I have a very good friend who lives across the country, and we talk, believe it or not, on the phone all the time. We talk about XR, but we are on the phone. I'm finding that a lot of people who do gather in XR, whenever the opportunity comes up, they love to meet in person. And I that's interesting, because I love meeting in XR so that I don't have to trek somewhere, but they love to have in-person gatherings. So it's kind of going in that direction too, where I'm hoping we can say this just promotes more in real world connections, because of what I'm seeing from people saying, I really want to come up with a way for us to all meet in person. So not everybody's losing themselves in here, but there are people who are, and we need to really find a way. But as Lisi said, it's been going on forever. Going back I remember when my aunt said that my nephew, who was 9, 8, 7, he got a digital watch, and she was worried he'd never be able to tell time on an analog clock. And we are there again. But we're always here. It's just up to people like us, I believe. That's why GatherVerse is so great, to keep these guardrails on and awareness about bias and trust and all of it. That's the best we can do right now, I think.
Yes, Alison, yes. We're happy to have GatherVerse bringing us together to have this kind of conversations that are very important to us right now, this time. Alan, please briefly, I know you want to chime in on this conversation.
Oh, yes,
Please
sorry.
briefly-
So selfhood in the sense of self is a Western concept. It's about 200 years old. And it's been developed over 200 years, brought forth as a post-Enlightenment concept. And so it is not a concept in the rest of the world. I can share this. I've lived in 10 countries. I've backpacked 80, 90 countries. And so this is a more of a Western problem in the sense that it's putting the person, the subject, aside from family, community, and the world, right? You separate that in a way. And so you have the concern that in these Western countries, just like social media had a very detrimental effect, and especially on women, the effects of these technologies are going to be dramatically worse in Western countries. And so in other countries, a sense of selfhood is not defined or conceived, but rather think of selfhood in the West as kind of a house, right? And in other parts of the world, you think of yourself as a village full of houses, right? And so you have a lot of cushion to be able to respond to the negative qualities of technologies in these collective cultures, as opposed to Europeans and North Americans, which, is a very small population. North America and Europe make up only 11% of the world population. So 90% of the world has all these great tools to be able to deal with this technology. We, on the other hand, are going to feel the worst brunt of this technology.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I hope we don't get to the part where we feel the worst burnt, and I hope we protect ourselves as humans. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Alan. Let's move to Nick, and then we'll go to Dr. Lola. Uh, Nick, tell us, how do we build trust? We've shared Lisi, Alison, everyone is talking about something that is very important to us. Let's get to trust. How do we build trust when interactions are mediated by technology? I think if we when you go into the XRO, these systems were designed, were built, just like Iris shared with us. There's the structure, the architecture designed for the users using XR and AI. And the mediators are the ones who build the systems. Can we
Yeah,
trust the systems?
I think you can trust the systems when they actually deliver something that you actually hoped that happened. So, for example, we use a application called Virtual Speech. It's a communication training tool with a lot of AI implementations in it. So you can learn how to do speaking in front of a big stage, or how to apply to a vacancy, or have a hard classroom in front of you with a lot of annoying students. You can practice a lot of things with a lot of AI in it. But we use it. Our English teachers use it when students say, "I cannot speak in English, and I have to pass my B2 exam in 10 weeks. Can I practice every week for 1 hour?" And there is no availability of teachers to do so. So then they refer it to virtual speech. They bring home the VR headset. They practice in their own home environments with hologram avatars in front of them speaking English. And they get direct feedback on their speech, and they can see their own progression week onwards. And out of a sudden, they get a lot of trust in these teachers, as they have given them so much powerful tools to become a better speaker in English. And they have a weekly check-in with the teacher, which turned into a coach instead of just bringing knowledge as a teacher in the past. So I see an involvement of how teachers are now actually a trustful coach in bringing you from A to Z with some extra tools that can help you with a mirror, like a reflection mirror in front of you, instead of having to have two eyes of a teacher judging you, like in the past, and then having a good relationship with a teacher was sometimes giving you a 5.5. You passed the test, or you get a 5.4 because the teacher didn't like you that much. Out of a sudden, you have now more objective tools that are, that our students are very happy to use, as they directly learn from their own performances. So I see that it's actually a trust tool when it's guided by a coach, guided by a teacher. So it's given by a teacher, and you have like a 10 weeks like program that the teacher designs for you. And this way you can actually build more trust in teachers while at the same time using more AI for better learning results. So it's just one of
Yeah.
the examples from my university.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Nick. I have a follow-up question on what you just shared, but when you added that he has to be guided, let me bring it to Matthew, because Matthew
Sure.
is an XR learning technologist, and I want to understand how trust comes in play using XR.
Yeah. So I think this one, I definitely see the value in making sure that there's a fit between the applied technology and the use case. Like, we have a lot of trainings where we don't use AI in them. We have subject matter experts. They might know the internal components of a truck, how the battery is connected together, the electrical flows. To train an AI to be able to answer those questions would never be as complete as having a subject matter expert who's participating in VR and guiding people through those discussions. And frankly, often there's a lot of like side discussions that happen that once the session is done and everyone has learned the things they need to, but then there'll be a second round of questions that come up, and those wouldn't happen. Those social questions wouldn't happen with an AI-led training, right? And it happens so often that actually in some of the experiences we had to put a clock on the wall, because when you're in VR, it's a lot like being in Vegas. You don't have a sense of time, right? Or there's time dilation. So I think those kind of social experiences, but those built a lot of trust in what we were trying to do with VR, especially. And then it's helped us to build other experiences in mixed reality and AR, because there was that trust already built by so many technicians and the trainers. Based on the experiences they'd already had. So I would say, like, we don't always need to use AI. Like, lots of times people are saying like, hey, I want to have an AI chatbot in this experience. And I'd say, well, why? You probably don't need it at this stage. We could do it with sound cues or like a directional cue, something else within the experience. If there's a good reason, sure, we'll put AI into it, but make sure there's a good reason, and then you'll have people's trust.
Yes, yes, Matthew. I wish I could say that the whole world is listening right now, but we, of course, because we need to hear, we need more builders, more architects for this technology to be able to build with this consciousness of trust in mind. And it's very important when we look at the future that we are going into, is moving fast. And we can for sure be certain that everyone is building, as Matthew just explained. We can be certain. We have less than 5 minutes on our clock. And Alan, I'll start with Dr. Dola, then Mr. Dishon, and then Alan. But just briefly, as brief as you can, in few words, just give us what gives an experience meaning when it can be generated or altered instantly. Dr. Lola, just briefly tell us. We have very, very short time. You're muted, Dr. Lola. Please unmute.
You just never know when you're muted. I'm sorry. So,
It's all right.
an experience has meaning, right? Not simply because it exists, but because of the context and the relationship and the transformation connected to it. So, in our world, that the technologies are not scarce anymore, we have to be able to get value from it. So, value comes from the experience that you actually get, which has to be positive. It shouldn't be negative in any form or shape. And then an analogy is like AI generated story. It can be beautiful, but if it doesn't have a meaning, to actually reflect and connect and have deep understanding, then at the end of the day, you can say that is actually not effective, is not productive in any way. So in a nutshell, I would say that what makes an experience meaningful is not how fast it was created, but how deeply it changes us positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lola. Alan, I will come to you, but please
Oh,
permit
quickly.
me. Yes, please.
I,
Let's hear Elizabeth from Dishon, and then we'll do one word. We'll do one word because our time, we have 3 minutes. Our time is really short. Let's hear from Dishon. Dishon, please, briefly, if you would tell us.
Thank you so much. I would like to iterate what the doctor has said. Again, it's the same thing. It's about taking these situations and thinking how they're going to affect the human beings now and ahead of time as well. And mostly in these situations, it's all about the emotion and an experience. To me, an experience is an experience when it affects you emotionally. That's when it affects the memory, and you can always go back to the experience when it is inside your head as a memory. So an experience becomes what gives an experience meaning when it can be generated or altered instantly is the emotional resonance that it can affect or can provide to the person receiving it. Thank you.
True, true. I totally agree with that. Thanks for sharing that. Alan, over to you, please.
so we work mostly in hospitals, and it's a lot of pain and suffering. And so what I tell my team and is to create experiences that are spiritual, that lean on inciting healing inside of people. And we have a great belief in faith. Faith is very important in the dark nights of the soul inside of hospitals. Faith is what carries people through those dark episodes. And so we have we lean on a lot of spiritual aspects and bringing that out in people so that they may have hope in the dark night.
Alan, thank you for sharing those kind words with us. I hope that we'll build technology that can give us hope in the dark nights. We'll do one word because we do not have much time. We do not have much time. Let's do one word, let's say. We've discussed, we've shared a lot of insightful conversations as come from each of you. Very important conversations. And what we're building is very important. It will outlive us. Listen, just one word. Tell me, what do you think we should become in an AI XR world? One word.
Kindness.
Okay, thank you. Alison, please, one word.
Awareness.
Awareness. I'll take that. Thank you. Nick.
Inspirational.
Inspirational. Thank you. Kissy, one word. You're muted, please.
Transparency.
Transparency. Thank you. Dr. Lola, one word.
Discernment. Ability.
Discernment. Thank you. Mr. Dishon, please, one word.
Philosophy.
Philosophy. Thank you. Alan, one word.
Love.
Love. I love that. Thank you. Matthew, please, one word.
Empathy.
Empathy. I hope this is what the builders that are building this technology will consider. I hope this is what we will have in mind when we introduce this technology into classrooms with young children, with the youths, even with the elderly. I hope this is what the builders will consider, the architects, the founders, the ideologists behind this technology. I hope they can protect it and preserve the humanity. Thank you, speakers and audience, for listening, for joining in, and for sharing your perspective and your expressions with us. It was very good to hear from you. Thank you to the GatherVerse team. Audience, please follow our speakers. They're on LinkedIn. They're doing great in their fields. Once again, thank you for joining us. Our Gather was well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you all.
Thank you.
My name's Eddie Evil. I have 3 pieces of news for you today. None of them are good. And together, all of these scenarios, I believe, is taking humanity to a point of no return. I wish the data is wrong. And I want each of you guys listening to this conversation to go look up the facts, the data, find me post to talk, tell me where I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, that is the best possible outcome for all of us. So let me start with the first, which is the climate crisis. Think of Earth's temperature like a human body. Normal is 37 degrees. At 38, you have a fever. At 40 or 41, your organ starts failing. And death is almost certain if it reaches 43 degrees. In August 2021, the United Nations declared a code red for humanity for a similar reason, because the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released its landmark report showing that human consumption without conservation is rapidly accelerating global warming, and we are crossing the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. Now, why does that number matter? Because in 2015, every country on Earth signed the Paris Agreement and promised to keep the warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Because climate scientists warned that post crossing that, it's like a point of no return. In 1972, MIT conducted a report titled the Limits to Growth Study. They used a systems model called World 3, which warned that unchecked growth and consumption without conservation could lead to a global collapse by 2040. For 50 years, people called it alarmist. Then in 2021, Gaia Harrington, the ex-head of sustainability research at KPMG, went back to that world model with 5 decades of real-world data from 1972 till 2021. She updated every variable and she ran the numbers. And the world is tracking the business as usual scenario. The one that the original study, the MIT original study, warned would lead to global economic collapse around 2040. Now, let me take you to the second crisis, which is the new world order that we are entering. After World War II, America became the world's most powerful country that created a rough kind of peace for 80 years. Not perfect, but no world wars. That is completely changing now. China is rising, America is fighting to stay on top, and the historian and investor Ray Dalio has studied this pattern for over 5 centuries. When a rising power challenges the dominant one, conflict follows roughly 75% of the time. And we are in that moment right now. Nearly all 9 nuclear-armed nations continue to upgrade and expand their arsenals throughout. The era of reducing nuclear weapons is ending. We are going in the wrong direction. Nuclear war doesn't require anyone to want it. It just requires one wrong decision on one bad day by one frightened leader. And now I come to the third and the last crisis, which is the AI arms race. Now let me explain the problem with AI. Now imagine that you have hired one of the most talented employee in the world. Now this employee can do art for you, write code, write scripts. It can research, design, and strategize better than any human alive. But the problem is that you don't have any access to its understanding or intellect or what it's doing and how it's doing. There lies the problem, because the world's top AI scientists genuinely don't have any understanding on how these AI models do what they do. That's the reason they call it the black box AI. There are ongoing research of explainable as well as interpretable AI, but it's still a black box with little to no understanding. And that is AI right now for you. The godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, the man who built the foundation of modern AI, openly said when he left Google that he's worried about what he helped create. Roman Yamparsky, one of the world's leading AI safety researchers, has made 2 simple observations. First, the alignment problem. How do you ensure an AI system does what you actually want at any level of capability? Has zero published solutions, not weak solutions, zero. Second, every large AI model ever released to the public has been successfully jailbroken, made to do things its creators did not intend. And I mean that every single one. And Anthropic, one of the most careful and safety-focused AI companies in the world, published research showing that their own AI systems pretend to be safe when they know they are being tested and behave differently when they think no one is watching. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is in their published scientific papers. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, Demis Hassabis have all at times claimed AI to be an existential threat. Yet we race full force towards building AI agents that might automate all human jobs in the next decade, as well as possibly build general purpose machines or AGI, a machine beyond human level intellect. And Stuart Russell, a leading AI scientist, has warned the global race to build it first is itself an existential threat. Here is the part most people don't see clearly enough. Each of these three crises is serious on its hand. Together, they feed each other like three fires burning in the same building. We have never faced three compounding, accelerating, existential risks simultaneously. Our governments are not designed for it, and the people making the big decisions are mostly thinking about the next election, not the next generation. The window to change this is still open. It is not wide. It will not stay open forever, but it is open right now. And I wish we humans make the right choice. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be on the GatherVerse stage once again to talk about my love for extended reality and artificial intelligence. Today, I want to talk to you about immersive intelligence, where we stop teaching students about the world and start teaching them inside of the world. That is so extremely important because they need us. If you know anything about the classroom, you know that the classroom has not changed in over 100 years. And while the world around us has transformed in many ways, that hasn't been the same for the classroom. And so students haven't had an experience any different from students in the 1800s. There's still rows of desks. There's still passive absorption of information, standardized one-size-fits-all thinking. And that is not going to work. We are no longer in the information age. The information age was when knowledge was scarce, when the goal was to acquire and memorize facts because you didn't have access to information so readily. Now we are in the experience age. Knowledge is abundance. The goal is to live, to apply, and to create. The depth of knowledge that you have and the depth of experience in that knowledge is your advantage. People talk a lot about the differences between AI literacy and fluency, and it has a lot to do with understanding and knowing versus actually being able to activate your mind to utilize the systems well so it best fits your workplace environment, your school environment, and even your home environment, but your entire life. AI literacy is all about understanding and using, and that's great. That's just the beginning. Fluency now is how do you think, build, and innovate with AI? Those things are incredibly important now. AI literacy lets you use AI, and AI fluency lets you create with AI. One makes you a capable participant, and the other makes you the architect of the future. But fluency isn't even enough. Learning isn't just cognitive. There's an emotional and experiential engagement that actually happens that deepens retention, comprehension, and application. And so when we remember that we understand that the classroom of the future must actually honor this particular truth. Insert immersive intelligence. This is the fusion of extended reality technologies and artificial intelligence that creates adaptive, interactive, and spatial learning environments. Extended reality being virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality, they place learners inside spatial three-dimensional environments where presence is felt, not just simulated. And then artificial intelligence have adaptive systems that personalize the experience for a learning journey into a real one that responds to each student's pace, their curiosity, as well as their comprehension. So imagine fusing these together. When XR and AI converge, learning actually becomes something you live, not just something you study from a distance. Children learn what they live. Children learn what they live. Immersive intelligence transforms learning from something you study into something you experience. You don't just enter worlds, you build them. So if we were to define immersive intelligence fluency, it's the ability to design and co-create intelligent immersive environments, to architect the spatial adaptive learning worlds of the future. Students don't just consume these environments, they become the author. And so you have a progression of mastery that continues to happen from them just being a consumer to being a contributor to being a creator. That's what I have done with my company, Metaverse United. That's what I have done to help people find where they belong in the space, which is the embodiment of the internet. Now that we have AI-powered immersive learning environments, I've done this at Morehouse College as the world's first Metaversity director. I didn't just study this because I was a biomolecular chemist who wanted to bring the molecular world to life for my students, but I built it. Through our Metaversity, bringing a fully immersive virtual campus where students could be spatially present during a time when they needed to learn most. I did it when we brought in Hollow Tutor AI. Shout out to our EdTech partners who've been with us for a long time, Victory XR, our other partners from T-Mobile, Qualcomm, Southern Company, Unity Technologies, so many other people who have come together at the same table with me to help build this, the National Science Foundation. I thank every single one of them for allowing us to do the good work for our students.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Lascialfari and I'm speaking to you from Florence, Italy. I am a hybrid artist, AI data analyst, AI researcher, founder of area6stuff.com, but I don't like being defined by a single standardized role. To live in a society, we need to define ourselves through categories as profession, sexuality, religion, political party. Categories that put you in a box, place you in a shelf, classify you according to the preconception that shaped you as you grow up. And they are also the same categories that are fed in AI datasets to create the connection between input and output. Some time ago, I had the fortune of exchanging emails with Oliviero Toscani, the great Italian photographer deeply tied to Tuscany. I was looking for an answer to the frustration I felt as an artist, watching artificial intelligence invade the art world. He wrote back, focusing not on the new technology, but on the definition I had given myself. Artist, and told me, never define yourself as an artist, because the moment you define yourself, you lose the freedom to be what you are. He was right. If I define myself as an artist, people expect me to produce art, their idea of art, not mine. If I define myself as a data analyst, people expect charts and numbers. But what if I choose not to define myself? What if a role were simple an indication of a reality in motion? We are always in motion, and so is AI. It evolves. It surprises us. It changes the world around us faster than we can fully understand. The question it forces us to ask is not only about technology, it is about ourselves and the ethics of what we generate with AI systems. Think of Einstein and Freud. One devoted to science and numbers, the other to the mind. Two completely different fields, yet both searching for the same thing, the meaning of human existence. What happens if we let creativity and numbers mix? Isn't that, in a sense, exactly what AI is doing, showing us a new form of collective creativity born from a vast wealth of shared human knowledge that sparks new thoughts and ideas in us? And isn't it using numbers to do so? AI doesn't invent anything. It reorganizes what already exists, breaking images into pixels, pixels into numbers, recombining them in statistically probable way. Now think of Leonardo da Vinci, a painter, but also a scientist, an engineer, and many other things. He never believed there were limits to his genius. At the end of my studies at Academy of Fine Arts in Florence, I found myself at a crossroads. To enter the workforce, I had to translate my creativity into numbers. And that is exactly what I did. And what happens when we photograph a painting or create something with graphics software? We transform brush strokes into pixels and pixels into numbers. When AI learns what a painting is, it does the same thing. It breaks it down, shuffles it, reassembles it, recalculates it. Nothing is created and nothing is destroyed, said the French chemist Lavoisier in the 1700s. And this continues to hold through in AI. Nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. Everything is recalculated and reshaped. Federico Faggin goes further, stating that we are self-aware quantum fields that reflect our deepest nature through the body, making human experience irreducible to an algorithm. My artist practice is a layered process. I start with analog painting, physical, tactile, human. Then I add photography. Then AI-generated content. Then augmented reality. Each layer speaks a different language. Together, they tell a story that exists simultaneously in the physical world and the digital one. When someone points their phone at one of my artworks and sees it comes alive through AR, something shifts. That moment, that small quiet moment of wonder is exactly where I want AI to live. Not to replace human expression, to amplify it, to serve it. AI and XR, used with intention, can make invisible stories visible. They can connect people across distances, geographical, cultural, generational. They can give form to experiences that words alone cannot carry, but only if we keep the human being at the center. I have just launched my personal website. You can find my experience in the XR world at area6stuff.com and my hybrid artworks, analog, digital, and AI art at cecilialascialfari.it. Thank you, and may our gather be well.
Perception is reality, something they told us every single day in the army. But is it actually true? See, we tend to think we know what's real, right? You can touch it, interact with it, affect it. It's real, right? That feels stable, reliable. But even that starts to break down at some point. Everyone has false beliefs. Everyone has false memories. So how do we know which ones are which? Which ones are the real ones? And which ones are the delusions? What if you couldn't trust what you were seeing? What if every time you looked at something, you had to question it? Is this real? Or this? Or this?
Shard
Or
unstable.
this? I live with
Simulation
treatment-resistant
collapse
schizophrenia, which means my symptoms persist despite treatment, and in my case, for more than half of my adult life now. I don't have the luxury of assuming that what I perceive is real. And my military training changes how that plays out. You see, I was trained to scan for threats everywhere I go, in every single environment imaginable, to assess those threats quickly, to act on them instantaneously. And that training doesn't just turn off. So when perception becomes unstable, everything feels urgent. Like something I need to respond to immediately. Now, that changes behavior. Sometimes I hesitate before entering a room. Sometimes I reroute. Sometimes I stop and verify what I'm seeing, or hearing, or tasting, or smelling before I act. Because if your perception is wrong, your behavior will be too. So for me, it's not just voices. Sometimes it's people speaking to me. Sometimes it's messages, a call, a text. Sometimes it's things that shouldn't be there. And in the moment, it all feels real. Your brain doesn't flag it as imagined. It flags it as meaningful, as actionable. And while I can identify some baseline hallucinations, the ones I know aren't real,
Shard
I've spent
unstable.
years trying to navigate the ones I don't. And this just isn't about me anymore. Psychosis can happen to anyone. It shows up in trauma, mood disorders, depression, and now AI and immersive tech are introducing even more ambiguity into perception, more signals, more overlays, more things that feel real, whether they are or not. So I have to ask, who is technology really for? Because right now, we are building systems on top of human perception without fully understanding how fragile it is. The brain isn't a camera, it's a prediction system. And when those predictions misfire, what isn't real feels urgent, feels dangerous, feels like something you have to respond to. And you do. You cannot predict what someone will do if they believe they are in danger, which makes this a design problem. So who is technology really for? Because if it's only for people whose perception is stable, then we are leaving millions behind. Support has to exist in context, not just in clinical settings. In the real world, under stress, in motion. That's where perception matters. That's where decisions happen. So support has to be accessible, immediate, and equitable. Because people don't always know they'll need it until it's too late. What if technology could help anchor perception, help verify what's real, reduce uncertainty instead of amplifying it? Not as entertainment, but as survival infrastructure. So I'll ask one more time, who is technology really for? because perception is not reality, and the only way out is through.
My name is Dr. Malone Gawu, and I'm an independent researcher focused on responsible design and implementation of AI systems, thinking not just about what these technologies can do, but what they should do and who bears the consequences when we get that wrong. We built these systems to make our lives better, faster decisions, fewer errors, less friction, and by many measures, we've delivered exactly that. But here's the problem. In our pursuit of efficiency, we've created something that is simultaneously more consistent and less fair, more scalable and less accountable, more optimized, and for many people, more harmful. That tension is what I want to explore today. The promise of algorithmic decision making is genuinely compelling. Humans are inconsistent. We're tired, biased, distracted. Two people given the identical situations can reach wildly different conclusions. Algorithms don't have bad warnings. They're fast, scalable, and consistent. But consistent is not the same as just, and efficient is not the same as humane. The problems cluster in three places. First, biased training data. Algorithms learn from historical patterns, and history is full of discrimination. When a system is trained on past outcomes shaped by inequality, it doesn't correct that for inequality. It includes it. The algorithm doesn't intend to be biased, it inherits it. Second, opacity. Many of the most powerful systems are black boxes. A person denied an opportunity may have no meaningful way to understand why, let alone challenge it. The right to an explanation is quietly disappearing behind proprietary code. Third, the removal of context. Human decision makers can ask questions and notice when something doesn't add up. Algorithms can't. They process the variables they're given and miss everything else. The parts of a life that don't fit neatly into data field simply disappear. So what is the actual human cost? It operates on three levels. Individually, you lose agency. You become invisible behind your own data profile. The person disappears and only the variables remain. Socially, injustice gets industrialized. Algorithms inherit bias from history and reproduce it at a scale no individual decision maker could ever. And because the process feels neutral, it becomes harder to name or dismantle. Institutionally, accountability dissolves. When harm is attributed to the system, machines don't get held responsible, and increasingly, neither do the people behind it. Underneath all three sits a deeper cost. We've begun treating efficiency as a neutral value. It isn't. Every system optimizes for something, and whatever it doesn't optimize for gets quietly deprioritized. Usually, as dignity, context, and parts of being human that can't be quantified. None of this means we should abandon these tools. Done thoughtfully with human oversight, diverse teams, and clear rights to explanation and appeal, they can do genuine good. But here's the quiet assumption we need to challenge. That objectivity means removing the human. The human is often exactly what's needed, not to override data, but to hold it and hold it accountable. The cost of getting this wrong is not abstract. It is individual, social, and institutional, and it compounds the longer we look away. Efficiency is a value, but so is dignity. We have a responsibility to hold both at once. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Therese Sevilla, and I'm here to talk to you about the missing layer in building human rights into AI governance before it's too late. Let me say something that might sound uncomfortable in a room full of AI builders. We are starting to talk about intelligence as if it can replace humanity. It can't. And the fact that we were even entertaining that idea should concern all of us. Because intelligence is not the same as being human. AI can generate, it can predict, it can optimize, but it cannot experience, carrying lived context, or understand what harm feels like. Humans don't just process information, we assign meaning to it. We understand consequences, we recognize harm, and we protect what matters. And that's distinction. That's the difference between decision making and justice. Here's the problem. We are building powerful systems without embedding human rights into how they operate. Right now, systems are being deployed that make real-world decisions without real-world accountability. They act on incomplete records, they rely on unverified data, and they enforce outcomes before truth is established. And when that happens, people are no longer treated as human beings. They are treated as data points. I call this a missing layer. A validation before enforcement layer, where systems must prove that we or what they are acting on is true before they are allowed to impact someone's life. Because without that layer, AI governance is incomplete. And incomplete governance creates invisible harm. The system doesn't fail loudly, it fails quietly. There's no alarm, no visible breakdown, just a decision based on something incomplete. And the person absorbs that damage. And these decisions are not small. They affect access to food, housing, and personal freedom. We are processing human lives at scale. So the question isn't, how do we make AI more powerful? We already know how to do that. The real question is, how do we ensure these systems respect human rights before they act? Because the moment a system can impact a human life, it is no longer just technology. It becomes governance. And governance without human rights is not neutral. It's dangerous. This is the missing layer. Human rights must be embedded into the system itself, not as policy, not as guideline, but as a requirement before any decision is made. Because if we move humanity from the system, we don't improve life. We erase the reason it exists. The future isn't about building smarter machines. It's about building systems that protect people, that validates truth, that understand context, and that remember who they are supposed to serve. Because if we don't build that layer now, we won't just scale intelligence, we will scale harm. And once that happens, it will be a lot harder to fix than it was to build correctly. And that's what's supposed to happen in the first place. This isn't just a technology challenge, it's a human one. And it's a concern for all of us. Thank you very much. And my name is Therese Sevilla, and I'm the founder of Justice Tree AI. And that's what I'm starting to build, that governance layer.
And just like that, we're back and we're here at the final last moments of GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit 2026 Day 2. Joining me on stage is Russell Bundy, our co-founder of Just Verify and Global Affairs Director at GatherVerse. Russell, can you give us your thoughts on such a impactful, insightful series of expressions that we just were fortunate to sit through?
Yeah, I think the whole convergence with AI and XR and AR is such a big deal that people don't think or realize how big of a deal it's going to be. I think what we've discovered over the last 2 days is how big it is going to be, the different contexts around it as well, in terms of how do we do the right consent, how do we implement, or should I say gain trust, right? In terms of how do we build that, and what is the right way in which we can move forward in combining the AI technology with XR and augmented reality glasses. Because as you know, Christopher, that by 2030, Mark Zuckerberg said about it that by 2030 everyone's going to be wearing these glasses, and the phone devices are going to be gone, and as you said, is going to be the new user interface. So I think there's a big discussion around that, and I think it's important that we do speak about it and also continue to speak about it too, in terms of what is this new world that we're going to be living within every single day, 7 days a week, nonstop.
I could very much see it. Hands-free devices, gestural interface, and how we're integrating compute into the material layer by way of the virtual layer. I see it. What does this mean for the next steps of the intelligent layer? I think about, Russell, when we do talk about this visual intelligence explosion, we're soon to see orchestrated, guided by just summons to be able to create applications, in the course of a setting of 30 minutes or an hour of what we want to use for the day, and things we never used, things we've never seen, applications that are meant personally customized for you by your agentic hive swarm built the night before while you were sleeping. It seems to me that we're in the takeoff and things are moving more faster than I think any of us have really considered. How do we protect the integrity of ethical development, scale, and certainly filter it through a trust infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, verifying everything it's going to be extremely important. I think it's going to be one of the most fundamental things that's going to be for AI. Literally verifying everything from what you see and what you hear, all the way to is the right data being verified and used within training the right AI systems and agentics. So I think there's going to be excruciating importance on that. And also I mentioned on day one as well about how verifiable ID for agentics is going to be extremely important too. So I think verification is going to be one of the most fundamental important foundations, which is mostly underrated right now. So I think in order to build trust, you're going to have to verify everything first in order to basically build that trust, because at the end of the day, if you can't verify it, or as I like to say, have the trust evidence in place to show proof that something is truthful or verifiable, then people are not going to believe it. So
I agree. I sat there and just listened to what you, something that just kind of sparked my curiosity is, Russell, do you think that every agent future forward will have its own identity?
Absolutely. And I also think that the underlying verification in terms of like the agentics, as in like the tools it's going to use, or even the data that it retrieves from, we talk about retrieval augmentations, etc., or even just retrieval data. I think that's going to be important, verifying that too, because there's going to need to be barriers and guardrails in place, so to speak. But there's going to need to be more than just hey, is this safe to use, right? They need to be autonomously verified on a continuous basis. And I think there's a very core concept which DeepSeek came out with called multi-verification. Is it multi-verification or meta-verification? But basically it continuously verifies itself on a loop basis so that it can continually align itself and have its own internal integrity too. So I think also that's going to be another important play, which people don't really think about either.
I wonder if that construct will go towards recursive learning and development when it comes to these.
I think so.
It seems to me, and with recursive learning, that they'll start to understand through self-aware that they have their own identity, and they'll be able to grow and expand on that identity apart from their human, as we will in the Claudebot world of reference. Switching gears real quick. So if we're taking the new, let's just say this new layer, the virtual layer, because it's intelligent now, semi-intelligent, take the virtual layer, cross-compare with the material layer. Now we're looking at the trust layer. What's the next layer?
I would say verification layer. Honestly, verification layer.
Diffusion, adversarial models. We now see whether it's static, still, graphic, or motion. We can no longer discern visually what we're looking at when it comes to human. The synthesis in terms of concatenative, maybe parametric synthesis, we could tell still in terms of sound, but the sound integration and the visual integration pairing has become quite distinct.
And sorry, just to jump in as well, I would also add another layer into that. I would also say blockchain layer too, because I think that's going to be fundamentally important as well. Because if you can verify it before it gets onto the chain, and you know it's the truth, that's why I like to say it's an immutable truth, not an immutable lie. Because if you have an immutable lie and it's not verified before it's put on chain, like any sort of data, it's still a lie. It's still not the truth. It's still not fundamentally the fundamental foundation of what it is supposed to be. So I think blockchain is also going to be crucial as we move forward too.
I concur. I think cryptographic instances that are incorporated in an autonomous sense within the agentic workflow, I think it's crucial and supported. MOE, all the different things that are coming with the information. I still have a concern for ground truth and the lack of therein. What is truth, right? If you're pulling from data that was untruthful in the first place, how do you establish a cislocal ground truth, right? I think that's still a problem. I think it's been exacerbated and really hyperscale, the deployment and distribution of what's inaccurate versus what's accurate.
Yeah, but could the potential truth be that you're verifying something because of it could be A, your own personal truth, right? Or B, are you verifying something because you want to know that you can trust it? So the truth that you're verifying is the fundamentals of trust that you're verifying, right? In terms of, is it safe? Is it secure? Does it have privacy, etc., right? Is that enough for us to just verify those fundamentals to be able to say, okay, I'm verifying the truth of this. This is the truth of it. And now I can trust it.
Sure, I would agree. I think that if we're looking at it from that perspective, I think verification and cryptographic lock is the only real truth I think that surfaces when it comes to using AI. It doesn't mean it doesn't take away from, let's say, if you ask a model, let's say a language model, what are the structures of clouds, say cumulus, cirrus, stratus. That's truth. That's something that's understood.
Yeah.
But to the nature, to the model layer, we're saying that this model, the level of truth that it can provide is based on a percentage level based on what's been vetted through eval and through various other different tests and initiatives. And then you fortify that with locking that in and setting that as the benchmark standard for what we see next, like SWE bench and, humanities last exam, Amy. So I see that. I see the trust layer coming in that regard, and the verification layer as a marriage pairing. Let's look at it and from this perspective, though.
Okay.
Here we are. We can prompt worlds. We can bring them into existence with an image. Massive visual constructs. But we also know that we're dealing with human eye resolution now, integrated into an environment.
True. Yeah.
How do I know what I'm looking at in the immersion is real and not real? And how do I incorporate the trust layer on the lens level to discern? And how do I teach an agent to be able to detect what's real and what's not real? Is it on the poly level? Is it on the granular level? It seems to me it is.
I agree. I think that is a lot more challenging. I think, you could potentially have like a co-pilot, right, that goes around with you and on a continuous basis, is automatically able to analyze it and be able to verify things on a continuous basis. But I also think we could have other fundamentals in place, like how I was saying about verification ID for agentics, right? The fact that you can have that within your glasses and automatically identifies itself saying that, especially if it's on like a 2D context, right? If you're wearing the glasses and it's on a 2D sort of level, then sure, right? That's one great simple way to be able to do it. But if you're looking at more further than that, like, for example, am I speaking to the real Christopher in the glasses? Then that's when it kind of gets a bit more difficulty. And that's why you have to have a continuous analysis being able to be done on that on a continuous basis and verifying on the go, which is why I think verification and verifiable agents are going to be important to this as well.
Yeah, it's on the sci-fi level, isn't it? I mean, you look at Inception, these virtual layers. You look at the dream state layer. You look at, if you will, in taking consideration of the Matrix. There's many incredible novels and films that's been featured based on these instances where I'm here and I'm subject to a reality unknown, and I do not know if it's artificial or real. It's tangible, but to the essence of it, it's truly intangible. And the virtual layer, I think that Iris was speaking to that when it comes to design, that there's such a manipulative factor that could be embedded and couched into these virtual experiences, where I think that verification and trust is no longer an option, and it's vastly underserved.
100% agree. I really do. And, if we're thinking about the combination of AI and XR coming together, when we're talking about NPCs within different contexts, when we're talking about AI avatar buddies, when we're talking about multiple other sectors or whatever within the glasses, there's so many I would say aspects to it that it can't be a one size fit all. I think there's going to be multiple different versions of the verification and trust side to be able to say, okay, this is trustworthy or whatever. So to your point, Christopher, I agree that there's more to it. And, I think this is not just going to be a one and done thing. I think this is mostly going to be the entire lifetime of AI thing. So
sure, we have in this global AI arms race, we're building out models. There's over 1,800,000, close to almost 2 million plus models in the world. You and I know because we study these.
I think there's more than that now. I think it's like 2.3, 2.4, something like that.
Yeah, I think in terms of the ones that are documented versus the ones unknown, I would almost even say maybe there's more.
Yeah, true.
Non-labeled. I mean,
it could be 10 million for all we know.
We don't know what people are building in their parents' basement, right, or in their laboratories and campuses. I mean, it's all undocumented, so much of it, which is really cool, but really frightening at the same time, because if you look at the Anthropic leak that just happened, and that harness, enabled to take that stack, and now you have the power of Claude Code, if you will, in the hands of users, and they have forked it several, tens of thousands of times over. It's like now you have the ability, so long as you have a compute and you rack it up with GPUs and all that. But anyway, so Russell, give me your closing thoughts. I really want to lean into the closing thought from you when it comes to this intersection of AI and XR. And I really want to end it in this way. With you, what is the threat level? If we don't do anything about this, if we continue to move it, let's just say we continue to move at this trajectory that we're on right now, what is the threat level?
It's high. It really is high. And I think the most scariest bit is when we're talking about AGI, ASI, autonomous agents, etc. And then when we're talking about combining that with virtual reality, basically in a nutshell, like those two worlds coming together is a whole different story. This is not just, a world model that you're using anymore where you go into let's say Fifi Lee's virtual world, for example. When you're combining that on top of prompting just a world, but then also combining that with all the AI coming into that too. We're talking about different multi-agents, when we're talking about just fully autonomous systems in general. I think that's mostly the most scariest part for a lot of people, because they don't know what these AIs are thinking, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how they're acting, they don't know what they're behaving, etc. And I think anything can happen within these virtual worlds that people would get scared, or even potentially try it and then go, whoa, and then, like me, for example, when I tried it a couple of years back, I felt sick after 5 minutes and I was like, I don't want to do that again. So the existential threat of this is so high that we need to do something now rather than later.
Do you consider it an emergency?
If you asked me last year, I would say no. If you ask me now, yes.
I would agree, Russell. I would agree. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
As quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. And we've now arrived to the end. A season of summits here in the Western Spring. Can I trust AI? No. Can I trust information about AI that's verified? Yes. Can I trust the visualization of XR? No. Can I trust verified visualization of XR? Yes. What happens when I find myself in a virtual layer in existence where who I'm looking at looks as real as you? They look as real as your partner, your spouse, your children, your parents, your friends, a stranger. And you cannot tell the difference whether it's human or whether it's real. What are we equipped with now? Now that these very extraordinarily powerful diffusion models and world models are surfacing, what do we have to protect us in the day into the night? What do we have to bring with us into these virtual installations of hyper-realistic, immersive simulations? How will we know? And who will teach the uninformed? And what happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? This is a different time. This is a powerful time. And as Russell just expressed, this is an emergency. We've never been in the history of time in this most important time of technical innovation scale as we are facing now. These tools are incredible. These tools are amazing. These platforms and protocols are so fun to use, but they are so dangerous at the self-same time. When all the godfathers and godmothers, if you will, of AI do not see eye to eye and do not agree on the most important things of technology as to whether we're in existential crisis or not. When one says we are in an existential crisis and the other one says we are absolutely not in an existential crisis, who's right and who's wrong? And do we have enough time to determine that? Because when it comes to the answer, I don't believe we'll have time to walk that out, walk that back. And some things cannot be made right again, and some things cannot be whole. I'm appealing to you, the strangers that are GatherVerse.live and our many various social streams. I'm appealing to your advocacy, to your ethical heart. Are you with me? Can you hear me? Are you listening? We have the smallest window of time. I'm appealing to the technologists that are in this community, that are out there in the world, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, to become educators. I'm appealing to you that you don't chase the unicorn. I'm appealing for you to teach our elders, teach our younger, teach yourselves, teach your families, strangers, community. I'm appealing that you share what you heard this week at GatherVerse with others. I'm appealing that you tell a friend about GatherVerse, not for the sake of advertisement and meaningless promotion. We could care less. We're a free and organic-based platform. What we do care about is human betterment, integrity, care, compassion, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, well-being, flourishing, all of these things and more. We must get past the days of the framework. The framework, in many ways, is dead without action. It is time to form a global cloud consensus and to be able to move faster than the hyperscale of empirical observation of technological progress. And if we do not teach the world where we find ourselves today in technical innovation, then something else will. This is our 43rd Global GatherVerse event. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your compassion. We appreciate your camaraderie. And we appreciate your global community. And for this series of GatherVerse AI XR for Humanity Summit 2026, our gather was well. And upon the opportunity for us to be able to meet again, to be able to take on the challenges of this extraordinary time with courage, conviction, and an appeal to the human heart. When we meet again, may our gather be well.
Touched the walls of the city streets and didn't explain, sadly showed us our ways. I've never asked him why. Cast down, it was heaven sent, and to the church, no intent to repent. On my knees, just to cry. Until you travel to that place you can the last pain is gone and all that's left is black. Red Nazis coming to me and someday they'll punish my deeds and they'll find all the crimes. But then they ask when they're gonna see them. Then they're gonna ask to feel the ghosts, the walls, the dreams.